Hey,
With that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to John.
all right. Hello, everybody. I'm John, John Shircliffe, and the kind of idea for this is I'm going to be going a little more off the cuff than like the Monday guest speaker stuff. I have a general like flow of what I want to talk about, but the overall idea that I wanted to bring up is if you're a junior developer, I understand like finding those positions is pretty tough, especially right now. And another path to look at within whatever company you're working with or when helping other people might be Excel. For me, my background is I worked at a Fortune 500 company, Spectrum or Charter, however you want to call it. And I worked my way up from a normal designer and ended up in a database management role. And I would say a big part of that is due to the fact that I did stuff in Excel. When I was a designer, I was just making Excel workbooks that would help me accomplish my job a little easier. And that, over the years, circulated to the point where the database people were looking for a position, and that's how I got my name out there. So a thing that I think is important with Excel is a lot of companies use pretty outdated methods to organize data, especially smaller companies. Some of you have probably seen this where there is some extraordinarily important, crucial piece of a company, and it's in some random Excel book on their server. The thing about that is you can potentially step in and automate features on that Excel book. When I was a kid, in my 20s, one thing I did while I was working in a factory was they were doing all of their, they were managing all their jobs by hand. So anytime a job processed through the factory, they would write it down on a piece of paper, and then they would mark that piece of paper off. And if you can guess that everything went south a lot of the time because human error happens. So the thing that I pitched when I didn't really know much, but I knew Excel was this fancy tool that did stuff with data, and I made a tool to help with that, basically. And that was my start with it. And I know most of you are programmers or aspiring programmers. You have the tools to do cool stuff with Excel. So that's my kind of intro spiel, but we can kind of roll through kind of the overall plan here. That's the plan. I don't do a whole lot of presentations, so forgive me if it's a little scattered. The thing to keep in mind with Excel is it's not just a spreadsheet tool, or it's not just a thing that holds data. Excel can be used for a ton of things. It can be used to clean up data. It can be used to automate data entry tasks. It can be used to manipulate folders and files on Windows machines. It's actually an incredibly powerful tool if you know what you're doing with it. And the thing to keep in mind for me, most jobs I've worked, I have touched an Excel sheet. Even in factory work, at some point along the line, I've touched an Excel sheet. So you're going to be messing with them often, and it's just it could be a good, idea to learn maybe a little bit more about the kind of innocuous thing that's in the back of pretty much every company. On that, I did a quick Google search, but what I gathered is over 85% of companies use Excel in some way, shape, or form. And the reality is it's not going anywhere. Again, many of these companies, some of the major major databases, if you want to call it that, are in Excel sheets on different servers and stuff. So a benefit that I would say, especially if you're a newer dev and maybe struggling with some of the visualization that is really, really hard in programming, Excel can help overcome that barrier a little bit because everything is visual. When you are messing with Excel sheets, your arrays are rows and columns. Your variables are single cells, right? It can really help bridge that gap from, visualizing to, any sort of real programming where all this stuff just kind of happens in the background and you just have to know what an array might look like. Let's see. Okay. So some background info for what I did while I was in my database position at Charter was the biggest project I kind of headed was a database cleanup job using the MongoDB database, which is similar to SQL. And yeah, this image is clear as mud because it was made in Paint, which is where I do a lot of my brainstorming. But here is the actual zoomed in image. I actually, just as a tangent here, Paint is also pretty incredible. I'm a very visual person. I need to be able to see, I need a whiteboard. I need the biggest whiteboard in the world. And Paint is perfect for that. So this was actually, I got permission from my company to get this. I took out all the information that was proprietary, but this was the actual flow that we used when we were tackling this year-long database cleanup project. And as you can see, we have, I'm not going to go over each piece, but just kind of wanted to give an idea of what using Excel to solve business problems might look like. And as we have here, showing an Excel sheet saying, hey, if we get all the data in this form, we can utilize that with Mongo to write queries looking for specific information. And with this tool, I collaborated with another programmer who was at the time much more experienced than I in terms of programming. And he did some JavaScript tooling so that we could actually parse that through there, because the bottleneck, one downside of Excel is it's very memory intensive. So once you're running, 10 to 20,000 kind of queries, it basically locks your computer up for up to 2 hours was one of the queries. And it actually worked, but it was pretty funny because we assumed it had died. Yeah, this is kind of what a slapdash programmer kind of thing using Excel might look like. The big thing for me, the thing that I want to emphasize is if you are wanting to get into programming as problem solving, the thing to keep in mind is business needs come first. And when you're using Excel, the greatest benefit it has is you can do things really, really, really quickly in comparison to something like C# or Python or JavaScript. I can throw together an Excel sheet that solves a simple business problem in an hour or two. And I can change it and modify it and all that stuff if needed. So, but yeah. Just wanted to kind of emphasize that, the reason I wanted to bring up this picture is when you're communicating business problems, especially when you're communicating with managers and, heads of departments who probably are not programmers, visualization is highly, highly, highly important. And Excel is kind of nice for that because you can have these fancy, clean headers that tell that person what everything does. But being able to show them and explain to them what problem you are solving is going to be very important, because something that might be obvious to you as a programmer of, hey, I can make this cool tool that's going to shave off 10 seconds of this part of a job every time someone tries to do it, and we have 50 employees and they do this job every they do this 100 times a day, and overall it's going to save hundreds of hours, and that's going to go over the head of any normal person. So being able to show, like, we're going to take this and then make it go into this and do this, really important to keep that in mind when you're doing these kind of problem solving exercises. Yeah. Okay. So this is a screenshot of one of the more important sheets or workbooks that was used in the tool that I created. And this page shows pretty much what you can do with Excel that you could do in anything else. But again, the benefit of Excel is you get that visual information, which is, for me, really nice. It allows for bug fixing and troubleshooting, especially because, again, keep in mind, when you're solving business problems, speed is going to be the most crucial factor. No normal manager who's running a factory or doing database entry wants you to spend a month solving a problem that needs to be solved yesterday. They really, being able to troubleshoot your problems and see the visual information is something that Excel offers that other programs you have to output to a debug menu or to a message box, and that's going to slow you down and just cause a little bit more headache in terms of solving. But the nice thing with Excel, though, is you can have your tabs that pretty much each of these, if you want to think about it, each of these is a different array that I was creating that was utilized further in the workbook, whether it be a drop-down menu or some sort of data parsing where I need to compare values or whatever. That's all these are. But the benefit is I can see each of my arrays. So every time I run this program and something breaks or looks wrong, I can just come to this tab and say, okay, arrays, what did you fill up with and why? And it allows you to really solve those problems a lot quicker. Boop. Okay. Excel in the wild. So we're on 8. Okay. So the main thing that I keep in mind, and I got this through working different jobs in different fields. I've worked a number of things. Again, I started kind of in factory work, ended up doing more data entry, and then landed design work and done a lot of things. And the thing that I've noticed that surprised me when I was young, but now that I'm older and I know that everybody runs into the same problems, just some places are better at hiding it, is a problem that everything has is disorganization. And if you can solve that disorganization, that is a huge step and usually a pain point within companies. If you are working in a job where Excel is utilized regularly, you'll get this. You'll understand this. They will have multiple Excels that do the same thing or need to copy data 5 times to make sure it's here, there, and everywhere and make sure everything works. And that's pretty inefficient. So those are the pain points to like look out for when you're working in a company, because it might feel inconsequential or simple, but alleviating that problem for a company or the big thing for your manager can be huge. They will remember that. They will remember you the next time a problem comes up, and they might even ask you to solve some future problem because they know you're capable of spotting those kind of things. Let's see. Okay. All right. So, and also I'm again going kind of off the cuff. The slides relate roughly to what I'm talking about, but I'm not using them as like a super guideline. But this slide is pretty important. It goes over some stuff, just random ideas I had of things to look out for in a company to keep an eye out for. And it's not an extensive list is the big thing. But the thing I will say, I have used Excel for almost 20 years at this point, mostly as an amateur, really. But there hasn't been a problem that I haven't been able to accomplish that Excel couldn't do. With the caveat of the memory issues, whenever you get to large data like that, then you probably need a real program. But simple problems, Excel actually can handle, I would say almost all of them. I would be surprised to find something that has to do with data or something like that, that Excel can't do, that especially as many of you are programmers, you might instinctively jump to C# or jump to Python. But if you had to program that in those programs, potentially getting something that you could present to, again, a manager, that might just take a while, because unfortunately the truth in programming is visuals matter. I hate it a lot. I'm sure many of you hate it too. I wish we could just work out of, standard command prompts and make everyone enjoy that, but they don't. They think it looks bad, even if it accomplishes a lot. And the cool thing with Excel is you can format it to look really nice. And then when you hand that to your manager, that looks really nice. So something to keep in mind there. All right. So the last little bit here is just some little examples I threw together of some things that I have used extensively in my time working at Charter. And I've even helped other friends and stuff who have different companies, who work with for different companies, and just given them these very basic tools that are, to me, and to many of you probably, this is really simple stuff. But to the layman, the standard like supervisor or manager, these can be huge, kind of game changer kind of things. So the first one here, hopefully will work. But I did actually throw these together in a couple hours. So there's a chance they fail. And if that's the case, then that is kind of part of programming. They are going to fail sometimes. And then you just fix it. And again, the goal here is to solve the problem as quickly as possible, not necessarily perfectly. If you can solve 80% of a thing and 20% is still an issue, you've fixed 80% of whatever problem was occurring, and then the rest has to be done by hand. And that's actually fine. A lot of managers will be completely okay with that. So this one's just a simple data parse. So I have 3 eBay listings here. So the example here is, if you're working at a factory where you're ordering a lot of parts, you need to order screws and oil and wood or whatever. You might be utilizing different websites to figure out what prices are good, what's competitive, what is this actually priced at, and oftentimes that's somebody sitting there for multiple days, like just by hand figuring it out. But you can make a simple search on text, because most things on websites are just text, right? So you can do a simple search and paste your raw text information into an Excel file. And as long as you know what keywords to look for, which is going to be pretty common on websites because they're all going to be formatted in a pretty similar way, you can find that information instantaneously. So I don't have to go searching the website for the name of the listing, the company, the price, the reputation. I can just go to the website, select the entire thing, come over here, paste it, and then you get all the information that you're looking for. So this doesn't seem, at a glance in a single use here, right? It doesn't seem that important, because yeah, I can get that information just by looking. But if you're needing to pull information for 100 different listings of things, this could be a time-saving thing that will pay off. And this is, in my opinion, where Excel can be really useful. It'll pay off very, very minutely over the course of, a year or two. But again, I threw this together in a couple hours, and if it saves 10 seconds per time someone's looking, that's going to add up in time. And for that person, it makes their job easier. And people really remember people who make their job easier. So, and then, whoops. I'll just pull the last one just to kind of show generally how this works, right? Very simple. All it's doing is looking for, I just went through this text, figured out where everything was basically lining up, found a specific word that wasn't moving depending on the listing, and then moved up or down rows depending on what I was trying to find. So the second one, this one comes up all the time. Drop-down lists. Drop-down lists are awesome. Many companies really enjoy being able to find information easily. Typically, I would hide all this information, but I've kept it visible here. That's going to be a common through line with Excel sheets is all of your data has to be located somewhere. And the easiest thing to do is just hide it or have it on another sheet, hide the sheet, however you want to do it. The big thing is you just don't want users breaking stuff. So if it is a long-term sheet that many people are going to have access to, you might have to take some extra measures to make sure no one can come in here and delete something. So the nice thing about this, though, is this isn't just a standard dropdown. Standard dropdowns are nice, but I've actually found this to be something that is a nice little trick. It's not hard to do, but the problem of this comes up often, and that is dependent dropdowns. So in this example, let's say you're working in a place that cares about the counties of different states. So as an example for work that I do, different counties might have different permitting information that is relevant that you need to know before you start working in that county. And instead of just sifting through a folder full of county files, which I've done before, that was the common way to save things. They just piled up all the permitting information in one folder. You just had to find it. You can make a variable drop-down list. So with this, you see here that I have Alabama, and then it lists all the counties within Alabama. Cool. Well, if I change this to Alaska, this drop-down list is also going to change to the Alaska column. And all of this is mutable. So whenever I add more information, that's going to add to the bottom of the list there. The same goes for any of these headers. As I change them, it should... Nope. Take that back. Didn't program that in. Future thing if I ever wanted to work on this, but it gives an idea of what you can do here. And I didn't get a chance to add as much detail as I wanted, but what you could do is now with Excel, you can tie a table elsewhere in the workbook, and you can tie it to these two names, and then you can pull up whatever information you want that is tied to that state and county specifically and have it populate here. So instead of a user sifting through a folder, they can just select these options. Bam, now they have the information they want, and it's going to save some time. And again, the probably more key factor is it's going to save frustration. If you can make people less miserable at work, you're doing a really good job. Okay, so this is the kind of final piece. The first two here don't use any VBA. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, VBA is the actual programming side of Excel. That is where you can start doing some real heavy lifting and real data manipulation. It's super cool. It's really fun. I personally just really enjoy messing with it. These two don't use it at all. This has no VBA at all. You don't have to deal with macro enabled workbook stuff and people freaking out because a big red error popped up on their screen and they didn't know what to do. This one, a little bit more heavy lifting here. So what this is going to do is this is actually going to reference a folder on my computer, this example documents folder, and it's going to parse through or open up and copy information from these files. Bam, boom, it did so. So just to kind of show that off, each of these files is going to have a first name, last name, email, address, something very, very simple. And then a user will have entered this information. And this sheet has gone through that folder, opened every single file, copied those, and inputted it into descending rows. So the thing to keep in mind, this is super simple. Business problems that you're solving are not going to have a sheet this simple. They're often, if anybody works in data entry, you're often entering multiple pieces of information throughout an entire Excel document. And what you can do is peel all that information out into a succinct row kind of setup. So I made some example documents. So move those over to here. Now we should see 6. There you go. So the big use for this, the thing that I used this exact scenario for, was multiple team members were doing what were data audits on different parts of the program we were working within. And we needed to combine all that information at the end of our project, but we didn't want to all be working in the same shared workbook because that can be kind of a nightmare. So the idea I pitched was, hey, we can all work in separate ones. I'll just make a program that goes in after, grabs all of the information from all of them, puts it into one. And that kind of evolved because each of these is being stored within an array that actually evolved into something a little bit more useful where it would actually parse the information. So if we wanted to go through and find, the classic example, any of these start with or have the letter A in them, we could actually include that in our VBA function, which looks like this. And as programmers, it's programming. This is going to look like your C# and stuff. The formatting is a little different. For instance, I think there's a better way to do it, but whenever you're doing variable, like setting of variables, and so whenever you're setting a variable, you have to, if you're going to append it, so you're going to add information on the tail end of a string, you have to make it equal to itself and the thing, which is a little weird, but overall, it's just programming. And the best thing I'll say about Excel to kind of put a cap on this is there are so many good resources online. Excel has been around forever, and whatever problem you're encountering has been solved. And not only has it been solved, there is a forum post that details in really clear explanation how to solve that problem. It's, it might not seem great, especially if you are going through the programming course, have finished the course, and want to get into real programming. Excel is not flashy, it's not fancy, and for the most part, it might feel really boring. But it's an incredibly powerful tool if you give it a chance. Oh, there we go. So that's pretty much the general thing I wanted to express. For those of you who are really just trying to get their foot in the door, I feel you. It's really tough. But if you want to do programming and you just want to do, if the problem solving part is appealing to you, you're able to do that stuff in Excel, and you might get an opportunity thrown your way by a manager or something. So yeah. And then there's my social stuff. So
Yeah, I was gonna sort of throw in on the end there too. Basically, any time that you can fix a problem that your employer has, that is a really good way to start doing more technical stuff. I am also going to turn off the recording now that the presentation's concluded. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a really good way to get into that. Like,